In the depths of the primeval American jungles, a legend that is thousands of years old comes to life. Beneath the dense tropical canopies of Guatemala, archaeologists are making a discovery capable of overturning our understanding of the Maya world. From the forest's embrace, a gigantic hidden city slowly emerges from the darkness, a witness that this civilization was far more vast and powerful than we could have imagined. And this find resonates with yet another staggering discovery. On the land of the mysterious Olmec people, the enigmatic civilization of the people of rubber. Their culture arose long before the Aztecs and the Inca and astonishes with its incredible technique and ambition. Now, these two most ancient civilizations, separated by centuries, seem to have converged in time to rewrite the history of ancient America. We will set out on a journey through the worlds of the Maya and the Olmecs to see their astonishing achievements, to feel the immense legacy, from monumental pyramids to the most complex writing systems. And even today, their heritage continues to fire the imagination. But this is not simply a story about forgotten cities and vanished empires. It is an invitation to travel across the ages, to feel the thrill of realizing that you are standing where ancient rulers once walked, and with your own hands, you are touching mysteries that for centuries were hidden by earth and jungle. This expedition into the heart of the Maya and Olmec worlds is not merely an attempt to understand the past. It is a chance to see our modern world from a completely new angle. Everyone goes to the largest Maya monuments, to Teotihuacan or to Mexico City, because they impress with their scale. But there are places where almost nothing remains. I have been there more than once, and believe me, we visited practically all the known sites. However, the Olmecs have their own calling card, the colossal stone heads, unlike anything created by other peoples of Mexico and Central America. Their facial features seem not to have come from the New World. This most ancient civilization, often called the mother of all Mesoamerican culture, hid for centuries beneath the dense jungles of southern Mexico. Its traces began to be uncovered only in the 19th century, when European travelers and scholars stumbled upon the vestiges of a people who had lived long before the Maya and the Aztecs. The first serious discovery occurred in the year 1862, near the place of Tres Zapotes, in the Mexican state of Veracruz. A gigantic stone head was found. It was a shock for the archaeologist José Melgar y Serrano, who first described the find. He was astonished that the facial features of the sculpture resembled, in his words, Ethiopian. This gave rise to bold conjectures about possible connections of the Olmecs with Africa or Asia long before the Olmec culture itself was understood and studied. Imagine a head more than 2 meters tall and weighing tens of tons without any traces around it that could explain its origin. Only at the beginning of the 20th century were archaeologists able to obtain more data about the creators of these giants. In the 1920s and the 1930s, Franz Blum and Matthew Sterling conducted large-scale excavations in the coastal regions of the Gulf of Mexico. There they found not only new stone heads, but also other monumental sculptures and artifacts. All these discoveries were concentrated around 3 key Olmec centers: San Lorenzo, La Venta, and Tres Zapotes. And the scale of these structures astonished even experienced archaeologists. The colossal heads that became the symbol of Olmec culture range in size from 1.5 to more than 3 meters in height, and the weight of individual specimens reaches 40 tons. That is as much as 10 adult African elephants weigh. They were carved from basalt, brought from quarries located more than 60 kilometers away. But the main question still remains unanswered. How did they manage to move these gigantic stones without wheeled carts or draft animals? Some researchers suppose that the Olmecs used wooden rollers, sleds, and sheer human strength, while others believe they could have transported the stone blocks along rivers on rafts. But the truth still lies hidden in the shadows of the centuries, And it is precisely this lack of a definitive answer that makes their legacy even more mysterious. The age of the stone sculptures and other monumental objects is determined by radiocarbon analysis of the cultural layers found nearby, as well as by stylistic features of the artifacts. The oldest Olmec centers, such as San Lorenzo, are dated to approximately the year 1200 before our era, and some constructions may turn out to be even older. La Venta reached its peak between the 9th and the 4th centuries before our era, which makes the Olmecs one of the earliest developed civilizations of Mesoamerica, outstripping the Maya by several centuries. Archaeologists study stratigraphy, the layered structure of the soil in which the monuments are found, to understand when exactly these objects were created. Organic remains discovered nearby yield more precise dates, confirming that the roots of this culture go deep into the pre-classic period. One of the most captivating suppositions among Olmec scholars is that this culture became the foundation for subsequent civilizations of Mesoamerica. The Olmecs are often called the region's mother culture, for it was they, in the opinion of many scholars, who laid the foundations of the long count calendar, introduced the concept of zero, and invented the ritual ball game, which later spread throughout the region. There is a hypothesis that Olmec society was rigidly hierarchical, with an influential elite that controlled enormous masses of people. It was precisely this ruling upper stratum that commissioned the creation of gigantic stone portraits, wishing to immortalize its power and greatness. But there is another opinion, that these heads had a sacred purpose, perhaps serving as offerings to the gods or as guardians of holy places. It is known that the Olmecs practiced shamanism, and there is a possibility that these monuments depicted not merely rulers, but divine intermediaries. Why did this mighty culture disappear? By approximately the 4th century before our era, the main centers of San Lorenzo and La Venta had been abandoned. The reasons still arouse debate. One theory proposes that climatic changes were to blame. Rivers changed their course or dried up, harvests failed, and this led to famine and unrest. Another version speaks of internal conflicts. Struggles for power among elites could have led to the fragmentation of society. There is evidence that some monuments were deliberately destroyed and ceremonial complexes were burned. Perhaps this was a violent downfall. Bolder versions propose an external invasion. Possibly new peoples came from the mountain regions, overthrew the rulers, and destroyed the centers. There are even ideas that the Olmecs were part of an extensive network of civilizations, and their decline was part of a general collapse. Among the most fantastic hypotheses is the connection of the Olmecs with the legendary Atlantis. Proponents of this theory believe that they were descendants of surviving Atlanteans who fled to America after the death of their country. As proof, they cite the high level of their art and architecture, as well as the enigmatic disappearance. Another popular version is contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. Some are sure that such perfect stone heads and the ability to move stones weighing tens of tons would have been impossible without alien help. However, none of these theories has received scientific confirmation. For academic archaeology, these are merely beautiful legends that feed the imagination of lovers of mysteries. The discovery of the Olmec civilization became a turning point in archaeology, showing that a millennium before the Maya, there existed a complex and developed culture. Their stone heads, architecture, and art still set minds racing. And although we still do not know exactly who they were, how they lived, and why they disappeared, the Olmecs remain one of the most mesmerizing enigmas of the ancient world. Quote, "I spent a great deal of time in the lands of the Maya, beginning back in my student years at Harvard, but one thing becomes obvious. At some point, something catastrophic happened to this civilization. The entire region was abandoned, the cities deserted, and this continued for centuries. For almost 800 years, these lands remained without life and power, and one after another, the cities stopped erecting new stone monuments. In the lowlands of Petén, in the north of Guatemala, hidden in dense jungles, Tikal stretches out, part of Tikal National Park, inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List. This ancient city is one of the largest and most significant archaeological monuments of the pre-Columbian Maya civilization. In its time, Tikal was considered the largest Maya city, and this reputation persisted for a long time. Between the years 200 and 900 of our era, in the classic period of Maya history, it was a powerful political, economic, and military center. In the era of its flourishing, there lived here, by various estimates, from 50,000 to 100,000 people. These were not empty cities. They literally seethed with life. Thousands and thousands of people lived in them. The story of the rediscovery of Tikal began in the year 1848, when local residents told Ambrosio Tut, the governor of Petén, about ruins lost in the jungle. The locals had long avoided them. The path there was too difficult and far. Tut, understanding that something grandiose might be before him, organized an expedition. The first documented foray was led by Governor Modesto Mendez and the artist Eusebio Lara. Their task was to describe the ruins and assess their significance. Mendez and Lara compiled the first detailed descriptions and drawings which awakened the scientific world's interest in Tikal. In the 1880s, the English archaeologist Alfred P. Maudslay, known for his studies of Maya monuments, arrived here. He came to Tikal several times, making detailed maps, drawings, and photographs. It was his works that became the basis for future large-scale excavations. From the year 1956 to the year 1970, the University of Pennsylvania carried out a project to study Tikal. It was led by such researchers as Edwin M. Shook and William R. Coe. Their goal was the systematic study of the city, the restoration of key structures, and a detailed investigation of its history and architecture. The excavations uncovered dozens of burials of the nobility hidden beneath the main temples and pyramids. One of the most impressive discoveries was the tomb of Yash Nun Ayin I, the ruler of Tikal, found beneath Temple 1, which is also called the Temple of the Great Jaguar. Inside were exquisite items, skillfully carved jade masks, ornaments, ceramics, and ritual artifacts. The jade mask became a symbol of the ruler's power and divine nature. On the stelae and altars of Tikal are carved texts that recount the greatest events, battles, dynastic marriages, the construction of temples. Maya writing is one of the most complex in the ancient world. It consists of logograms and syllabic signs. For many years, epigraphers worked painstakingly on its decipherment, and now we know the names of great kings: Yash, Kin, Chan, Kavil, Yash, Nun, Ayin. Their military campaigns, alliances, and defeats. These inscriptions are a true key to reconstructing the political history of the Maya, their ties with neighboring states, such as the mighty Calakmul. The history of Tikal is saturated with military conflicts. The city was surrounded by earthen fortifications, ramparts, and moats, many of which were probably filled with water. They protected the heart of the city from enemy armies. Archaeologists have found weapons, obsidian blades, flint spearheads, evidence of large-scale weapons production. In some burials, the remains of warriors with battle wounds were discovered, together with weapons and armor. All this points to the high value of martial glory in the culture of Tikal. The wars with Calakmul, an eternal rival for power in the region and control over trade routes, were especially fierce. The Temple of the Great Jaguar, Temple 1, rises to 47 meters. Built around the year 732, it became not only the ruler's burial place, but also a symbol of his greatness. A steep staircase leads to a sanctuary crowned with a roof comb, adorned with intricate reliefs. Opposite, on the western side of the Great Plaza, stands the Temple of the Masks, Temple 2, 38 meters in height, decorated with massive sculptures presumably depicting deities. But the record belongs to Temple 4, an entire 70 meters into the sky. Built in the year 741 during the rule of the son of Yash-Nun Ayin, it opens a breathtaking view of the jungle all the way to the horizon. At the center of Tikal spreads the Central Acropolis, a complex ensemble of interconnected buildings that served both as a residence for the ruling family and as an administrative center. Narrow corridors, inner courtyards, stairways leading from one level to another. All this forms a true labyrinth of power where decisions were made that changed the destinies of entire regions. No less impressive is the North Acropolis, the city's main ritual complex and the burial place of the elite. Here, on a small parcel of land, dozens of generations of builders are literally layered one upon another. One temple was erected atop another, creating the impression that this complex is an inseparable chronicle of the city, frozen in stone. Pyramids, temples, sanctuaries, and tombs are tightly adjacent to one another, like links of a single, eternal chain. Tikal is famous for its stelae, tall stone slabs with skillfully carved images of rulers, gods, and scenes from myths. Altars were often installed next to them, round or rectangular stone blocks on which sacrifices and other rituals were performed. These monuments are not merely works of art. They are historical documents where dates, events, victories in wars, alliances, marriages, and even betrayals are encoded. Thanks to the decipherment of the inscriptions, scholars were able to reconstruct the sequence of rulers, to learn when and with whom they fought, whom they took as allies, and whom they destroyed. Within the city, different quarters were connected by raised roads, sakbi. These stone paths with retaining walls protected the surface from rains and erosion. Along them, both ordinary residents and noble processions could move down going to temples or to festivals. But perhaps one of Tikal's greatest engineering achievements was its water supply system. In the city, reservoirs and canals were built to collect and store rainwater, which provided the population with water even in dry seasons. For such a densely populated center, this was a matter of survival. There is a theory that the architecture of Tikal is subject not only to the logic of urban planning, but also to celestial laws. Some scholars believe that the arrangement of temples and pyramids reflects particular constellations and important dates in the Maya calendar. This connection between stone and cosmos underscores how deeply the Maya understood the movements of the heavenly bodies and how tightly they intertwined religion, power, and astronomy. If you set the pyramids of Egypt next to the temples of Tikal, you can notice both similarities and differences. Both cultures erected monumental structures that often served as tombs for the nobility. But whereas the Egyptian pyramids, for example, in Giza, are mostly solid stone masses with burial chambers inside, the Maya pyramids combined both temples on the summit and places for conducting rites. There is yet another difference. In Egypt, the inscriptions on the walls of the pyramids are relatively laconic, whereas in Tikal, every stela and bas-relief is literally saturated with detailed historical chronicles. And now, if this journey into the mysterious past of Mesoamerica has captivated you, be assured, an even more grand adventure lies ahead. The next expedition will send us into the very heart of Egypt. Very recently, scientists revealed a new shocking secret about the Egyptian pyramids. This episode has just appeared on your screen right now.